The new Audi RS5, 444 bhp, a new 2.9 litre V6 twin turbo engine, but we will talk about that in a bit. First, dynamic mode, put it into full RS2, so full performance mode. Acceleration measurement, so we put it on 0 to 200, left foot on the brake, right on the gas, brake torque it, and launch. Quattro gives this mad grip. It done already 160, 180, 200, 14.2 seconds to 200 kilometers per hour, and we are still accelerating. We're still going 254, 258, 262, 264, 266, 267. This is supposed to be, I think, limited to 250 or maybe 260. And this is still going, and we are going, and we are going. This is something that we could never have done in the past in India. Hold it at full top speed and just keep going, keep accelerating, keep going and pushing the top speed. High speed testing in India is never going to be the same again. Welcome to India's Temple of Speed, and this clearly is the most impressive of the 12 tracks, 14 tracks in fact, that they have here at the NATRAX. 11.3 kilometers long, 4 lanes wide, 16 meters wide. It is rated to a speed of 375 kilometers per hour. You can go probably even higher, but for that you probably need a Bugatti Chiron or something like that. The way it is constructed also, I have to point that out. So the natural topography, they flattened it out so that there is no difference in the level. This 2 kilometer long straight where you can actually get 250, even 300 kilometers per hour is absolutely level. There is no bumps. There is no transition into the banking where you can feel the car moving around. Nothing of the sort. You can do sustained high speed testing at this track. Perfect to test out the new twin turbo V6 engine on the RS5. Up until now in India, you really couldn't do high-speed testing. There are test tracks. There's the G-Arc in Chennai, there's the VRD in Ahmednagar, where all of us actually started off our road test careers there, testing cars and bikes at the VRD. But there's no high-speed test track. And this now changes the game. This is as good as anywhere else in the world. To give you a sense of perspective, Nardo, which is this legendary high-speed bowl in Italy, that is little over a kilometer longer than the high-speed track at NATRAX. That is 12.5 kilometers. This is 11.3 kilometers. It's got 4 lanes width, more than 16 meters width. So you can test multiple cars here at the same time. It's got these 2 huge bankings, and the bankings, they've got a radius of 1 kilometer. That makes the bankings, the steepness of the bankings, quite gradual, and it is actually the most gradual of any of these high-speed test tracks. So the NATRAX officials, they claim that this is one of the safest in the world. It's not got a very steep banking where also drivers get unnerved, because you don't have to go very steep. It is a huge bowl. Then there's the transitions onto the bankings normally, and this is with every international test track also, because after the straights you have the transition banking, then you have the main banking, and all those intersections, they tend to sink with time, and you have these big bumps. Here there's nothing, there are no bumps. It is gradual, so when you move from the straight into the transition into the banking, you can't feel anything. It is all completely seamless. The 4 lanes each has a different neutral speed. So they say that up to 200 kilometers per hour, you use the second last lane. Above 200 kilometers per hour, you use the last lane. Neutral speed means you can actually take your hands off the steering wheel at 250 kilometers per hour on the banking, and the car will still track true and straight. And of course, you can go then faster than that. You can actually test cars to the maximum potential of it. And the benefit of this testing facility is that now cars can be tested to the absolute limits of the dynamics, and that will end up making safer, faster, more enjoyable, and thoroughly more dynamically competent cars for you and me to buy. The absolute highlight of the old RS5 was the V8 engine. It was a naturally aspirated V8 engine and crazy power, but the rev happiness of that engine, the sound that it made when it revved hard and fast, oh, that was epic. And obviously we're going to cry about downsizing. This now is a 2.9 litre V6 twin turbo engine. So boo-hoo, downsizing, smaller engines, no naturally aspirated engines, only turbo. But once we are done with the crying, well, this engine is also quite something. This was co-developed with Porsche. It is a 2.9 litre twin turbo V6, makes the exact same power as the old V8, even though it drops 1.3 litres. But thanks to twin turbos, it makes a ton more torque. 600 Newton meters of torque. This is the kind of torque that you get from big diesel engines, and it peaks at 1900 RPM and stays flat all the way till 5000 RPM, which makes this feel so much faster, so much more energy. No surprise then that this RS5, it pulls like a train. Also no surprise that you don't get the theatrics that the old engine gave you at 8250 RPM. But you have energy, you have enough and more energy, enough and more pulling power. Now this gearbox, it no longer is a twin clutch gearbox. In fact, Porsche in the Panamera, where they use the same engine, they use a twin clutch gearbox. But Audi, they're using an 8-speed torque converter gearbox, which in regular driving is really smooth. And then when you are in RS2 mode, where everything is in full dynamic mode, the shifts are hard, they are fast, even the downshifts are hard and fast. So you have the top speed. It does well over 250 kilometers per hour. In fact, 267 kilometers per hour. This is a fast car, make no mistake, but it's also a very comfortable car. And we'll talk about that in a bit. We are on a test track, so obviously we have to test. We've got our V-Box pod plugged in. We've got the acceleration measurement on the display. So I've set it up for 0 to 200. We put it into RS2 mode. RS2, ESP switched off. Hit start on the V-Box display. Switch off AC. Aircon switched off. Left foot on the brake. Right on the gas. 3200 RPM launch. This is a regular 8-speed torque converter, but it shifts really hard and fast. 160, 170, 190, and that's 200. And it's still accelerating. This is a fast car. 0 to 100? No, 0 to 200 here in 14.1 seconds. That's what it is showing on the display. We check our V-Box. 0 to 100 in 4.04 seconds, so basically 4 seconds. 0 to 200, 14.88 seconds. So it's a 0.7 second difference between the V-Box, which is super accurate, and the acceleration measurement on the RS5's cluster. So it's actually very accurate. 0 to 60, 1.88 seconds. That's the grip that Quattro gives you off the line. Quarter mile, 12.28 seconds at 183.4 kilometers per hour. So that's the acceleration figures on the RS5. Fast car. Whew. The RS5, it's a new car. This is not a facelift. And it looks like an appropriately mad, fast Audi. The bulges, the flared nostrils. Clearly an Audi, but clearly a very fast Audi. On the inside too, this again is typically an Audi in terms of the layout, in terms of the design, in terms of the very high quality materials used, this fantastic flat bottom steering wheel, metal paddle shifters, a typically easy to use MMI system. Everything is just how we would want it to be in an Audi cabin. Of course, you can complain that the infotainment screen is not as big as other cars, but it's all fine. What we're interested to find out really is how it drives. The RS5 is based on an evolution of the Volkswagen Group's MLB platform. It has got a slightly longer wheelbase, and that makes it slightly longer overall than the outgoing RS5. Now clearly, the RS5 is related to the A5, which we do not get in India. and the S5 Sportback, which we of course get in India. And like the S5 Sportback, this too has 4 doors, and it has 4 doors without compromising on the styling aspects. It still has that lovely 4-door coupe roofline, but it has the practicality of 4 doors, so great for our country. Now, keeping in with the RS5 sporty positioning, it gets 5-link suspension front and rear, together with the mechanically locking rear differential, the RS adaptive dampers, and that complements the Quattro all-wheel drive system and also the all-wheel independent torque control. This is lighter. It's got a lighter engine. 31 kilos has been knocked off the weight of the engine, going from V8 to V6. Plus another 30 kilos has been knocked off in the suspension and the chassis. So overall it is 60 kilos lighter. A lot of it has been lost at the front. So the front end feels more agile, feels sharper, more responsive. The RS5, it can send 85% of the torque to the rear axle, and it does feel rear biased. Plus you have the locking differential, the big 19-inch wheels so out there you can feel the outside rear wheel getting torque vectored, getting the car to oversteer ever so slightly to tighten up the corner. But just when you gas it that wee bit more, that's when the car realizes that, okay, this is the limit of grip, this is the limit of the guy behind the wheel, and that is it. But it has other tricks up its sleeve. And the most impressive is that on a dynamic track like this, which you've come here for the first time, now the first time we are at the NATRAX, first time you're driving on this dynamic track. It is 3.6 kilometers in length, 8 meters wide, so it's not very wide, and this is not a racetrack. This is a place to judge the dynamic and handling abilities of the car. This is a center of excellence for dynamics. So the runoffs aren't much. In fact, they are nothing. So if you go off, there's this gravel trap and you will get stuck in that. So you want to keep it on the straight and narrow. You don't want to go off. And in that sense, the RS5, it takes care of you. The NATRAX is not just about high speed. It is also a center of excellence for dynamic testing. And this is what they call the dynamic platform. Out here, you got this huge skid pad where you can really push the car to its absolute limit. So on the RS5, we'll switch off ESP Sport, ESC switched off, RS2 mode, and let's lean on the car and see what we can do. It's fast, that's obvious. And you can feel the sport differential coming into play, torque steering, the outside wheels, getting the car to turn in. But then just when it gets a little bit playful, the ESP intervenes and cuts things out. Like all Audis, you can't switch off ESP completely. There is no drift mode. So unlike a C63 or an M3, no smoky drifts. At the limit, it'll just wiggle its tail a little bit and then understeer. And by the looks of things, the driver will give up before the car does anything funny. And it can also make you sick. Need to take a break. One thing that Audi does really well is ride quality, and normally ride quality ratings are subjective. We drive it on our regular roads and then we gauge the ride quality. But here at the NATRAX, there is also what's called the comfort track, where you have different grades of roads and you can then judge objectively as well as subjectively the ride quality of the car. Now, this is a slightly bumpy concrete surface, something that you will definitely find on Indian roads. In fact, something that you would find on your daily commute. The RS5, it rides actually pretty nicely. Now, this is a slightly rough concrete surface. You can hear the tire noise, but I'm doing 40 kilometers an hour and it is going over it very well. Now we'll take you on another track. This is the Belgian pavé. It's sort of like the cobblestones that you find all over the country. Looks actually quite bad visually. So let's just slow down before we hit it. So I'm doing 30 kilometers an hour. And this ride quality is quite good. For something that's really fast and powerful and sporty, the ride's not bad at all. And a great place to test out ride quality and comfort. You don't have to go and find potholes. Actually, what am I saying? You find potholes everywhere you go in India. And then you have expansion joints. Yeah, you can hear that? Now this is sort of like a typical Indian tarmac road, which is a little broken, little rough. You can hear the tire noise, quite audible. But in terms of comfort, nice. You can hear that gravel also being picked up. And then this is quite severe. This is speed breakers. Oh. So all kinds of conditions and situations that you would find in India, it's here. And then there is also the torture track where you have those horrible potholes. But I'm not going to subject the RS5 to that. Come on. Nobody can be that cruel. After all, where can you do sustained high speeds in safety? In fact, this track is rated to 375 kilometers per hour, which is why everybody is making a beeline here to do 300 kilometers per hour. But to be honest, whether you're doing 250, 260, 300 in a car, it all doesn't feel that much different, especially on a track like this. What you should be trying out, not 300, but what you should be trying out on this track is a motorcycle. And for that, we have an absolute legend.